Now, it's cold, it's miserable, lots of us are snuffling, lots of us have got viruses, some of us will be affected by it, some of us won't. Every single time we come round again to measles epidemic or infection rates rise in Europe, my first thought is, I'm an independent individual human being. I have raised a biological child and 2 logical children. Sometimes their responses to things were worse than others. Sometimes children around them had a response that was worse than my kids. The fact is, the notion that we're all the same and that you have to be inoculating children with this MMR jab, this debate is going to go on forever and ever. And always at the back of it, in my head, is, hold on a minute, there's a drug company that's making lots of money out of it. And I always get really anxious when I hear that now we've got banishing measles from Europe by 2010 may have been dashed by poor vaccination rates in a handful of countries. You cannot have your cake and eat it. You cannot be putting rubbish and carp in food endlessly and looking at the rise of asthma and and obesity and then turn around and say, look what's happening with measles. You have to approach the whole thing at the health of our children and the health of our society. Now, back in the day, and that's an expression I've learnt from my nearest damn-it son, back in the day, children got measles, children got mumps. I am not suggesting that we go backwards where some children, where we have 1 in 15 children die of it, and that 1 person in 15 is the one that we have to be looking at and wondering why and dealing with it. But if, as a human being, you decide that you do not want to give your child a vaccination, you should, in a democracy, have that right to say no. There are some children, whether you like it or whether you don't, who have a response to that triple jabbing that is not good for them. We have evidence, however much people say we don't, we have evidence that if a child's immune system is weak, my daughter was one of them, she was very asthmatic as a child, she could not have received that triple vaccine. She couldn't have done it. So I made a calculated decision that I didn't want to go there. And it isn't a decision that's made easily. It's a lonely decision. If you're not part of the herd, if you're not mooing with the other cows or barring with the other sheep, if you're wanting to stand alone, it's a very lonely business standing under a tree in a field all on your own saying, I don't want to do that. So I want you to phone me and tell me why you decided against the vaccine and how you're coping with people saying, see, you're the reason. You are the reason that we haven't banished measles. I had that said to me by a doctor in Canada. You haven't had your child vaccinated. He left me in the kitchen. He blamed me for the whole of the measles epidemic. 0845 6060 973. Why didn't you have your child vaccinated? How are you coping with the fact that people don't like you for it? How do you like it? When the study is documenting that 12,000 cases of European measles in the 2 years spanning 2006 and 2007 means that we are one of the handful of countries in Britain that are not doing it right. Well, maybe there's all sorts of other figures that have been withheld from us, and I don't know what they are because they've been withheld. Measles is a contagious infection caused by a virus. Measles was once common, but because of immunisation, it's now fortunately becoming very rare. I want to know from some kind of expert what measles is and what is in the vaccine, and why people have a reaction to it. And really my question is, what is wrong with childhood illnesses? Is it to hark back to the first hour because we don't have parents at home looking after our children? What's going on? Is there something wrong with having mumps? Is there something that, most people aren't that 1 in 15. So if you did not have your child vaccinated, why? 0845 6060 973. Text me if you decided against having that triple M and are now dealing with people saying that you are responsible for the rise in measles. Text me on 84850. We are living in the 21st century. We have running water. Most of us have running water. Most of us live in better situations than we did when I grew up. I grew up in 2 rooms with rats and mice in the East End of London. I can remember it. And don't email me in. There's a guy who emails me and says, oh, you just want to be part of the East End. No, I grew up in St Mark's Street. Thank you very much. Born on Mile End Road. And when I go there now, I look at it and I think, blimey, that's my birthright, and thank God for that. I like it. My feet are rooted in the East End, even though my parents were rehoused in council housing, social housing. The welfare state looked after us poor little immigrant Jews.